Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Premier League presentation, bringing you guys a game between iCCup team versus the Ice Climbers. This is the semifinals of the European qualifiers here, so that is pretty much what we're looking at here. It's been very exciting thus far. We actually saw the previous team going up against 3D Max, but they were able to take it out and just really played extremely effectively there. So they're going to be going to the finals, and now we get to see in this best of one match who's going to be joining them in that final matchup there.
Yeah, and like one thing to remember with this tournament is this a ton of exposure for these teams. If they win this qualifier, they're in the TPL proper, and they get their name up with like all the other big league teams. So it's a huge opportunity for them to get their name out there. And to be honest, I feel like all the teams in the semifinals, at least, they definitely deserve a shot to really get their name out there. But there can only be one, so we're gonna see who has the right to play in the finals.
Exactly. So yeah, like I said, ROXKIS took it down for the other semifinals matchup, but we're going to see here in this best of one who's going to be joining them. And honestly, I have my money on both teams. Like, I haven't seen Ice Climbers too much, but I have seen one game of them previously, and they're pretty solid there. And along those lines, going up against iCCup, it's anybody's game here. Obviously, both of them having fought hard to get to this position here. And thank you guys so much for joining us in this opportunity to see who's going to be coming out on top in this. But interesting picks coming on out as they have like quite a few very key heroes through the Nyx Assassin, Keepalite, and Magnus. All three of them available, all three very prevalent in the current metagame. But how do you feel about them matching up in these kind of laning and hero situations here?
I think that really I would definitely favor the Ice Climbers lineup because they get a lot more presence with that Nyx Assassin in the mid game, and now that they've picked up the Anti-Mage too, it's basically giving them a lot of room for the Anti-Mage to farm. Meanwhile, the iCCup team, they need to force the issue by with the Magnus team fight, right? And there's a ton of team fights. You can get like Blast Off, Blinding Light, with that RP, and with that Shockwave on top of that, it's just a ton of damage, a ton of lockdown. But through the mid game, it's not going to be as effective. However, it's going to be very difficult to push into the iCCup team. So if they want, they can go and pick up a carry, maybe even a Nyx, that with that Empower, or a Luna, that with that Empower can do a ton of damage in late game. We're actually going to see this go pretty deep.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here. I actually expected something more like maybe a powerful offlaner that can survive against the lineup like a lone druid or something, but generally speaking, Sunlight either picks up on the mid or the offlane hero, and it's just generally not his style. More so, what they're going to be looking at is just getting tons of farm on the Luna and moving them into just an aggressive teamfight stage. The fact is, if you can get a good or reverse polarity off, the Glaives can just do tons of work, and the Eclipse will pretty much clean up anybody else that, when the dust settles, is still alive there. So, a lot of effective potential from Luna. She'll be able to farm very aggressively here. Most likely we're just going to see a 1 versus 3 situation where both teams go for defensive tri-lanes, as Anti-Mage and Luna just really want to prioritize getting some good farm. But if Luna can get a Midas pretty early on compared to Anti-Mage's Battle Fury, it definitely gives them a little bit, in my mind, an upper hand until AM starts moving towards those bigger items like the Manta style and that kind of thing.
I think in the super late game, though, again, the Luna will pick up. So there's basically two timings that the iCCup team has. One's like when that Luna gets that level 4 in Lunar Blessing, has access to that Eclipse and maybe a BKB that comes around like 20 minutes, and she'll be able to, just roll over Ice Climbers. Ooh, what is this going on? Anyway, but on the other hand, again, at like 40 minutes, once that Anti-Mage has like already 6-itemed, when Luna gets to 6 items, she does do a little bit better because of the nature of Glaives. So it's a very interesting lineup, and I think they're, just kind of relying on the fact that at all stages of the game, their team fight is pretty good. Another thing to note is that I believe this Keeper of the Light is going to, with one more support, they can pick another support that kind of needs items, because Keeper of the Light guarantees your support's farm because you can just stack and blast camps. At level 3, you're a pretty effective jungler.
10 seconds.
1 second.
Sure enough. So that's going to be pretty interesting here. We do have some powerful mid-heroes being banned out. The Queen of Pain and the... forgot his name for some reason, Tinker, is going to be taken off the board. So obviously the Rubik and Nyx Assassin more often going to be seen in a supportive role. I mean, we still see plenty of heroes pick up, mid players pick up the Rubik for the mid lane, but generally speaking, he's just more often in the support because he can't control runes as effectively unless he's actually in the right position to telekinesis or something along those lines. But one way or another, it's just kind of going against their strategy. They want to make sure Luna can do the right-click damage, and having to worry about a lot of burst magic or having to deal with the blind from the Tinker, both of those just don't bode well with what they have intended. And also an interesting ban with the Puck. Do you feel that would have been relevant in this combination, or...?
I think that Puck actually does a surprising amount of work, especially when you combine Puck with a Nyx Assassin. The amount of burst damage that's available, yeah, and the amount of long-range initiation. Clockwork also fills up the similar role. Okay, we might see an aggressive trialing with a Luna solo against the Clock. I think that's what's going to come up here.
Yeah, I mean, that's most likely it. We have the Clockwork, and that, I mean, obviously, like you said, Luna going up against that, she does have a bit of a range advantage, and she will be able to get relative effective farm. Clockwork will get his levels, but we also see a Tiny coming out. The reason I think this is really weird, other than the fact that Tiny is generally not seen as like a core mid hero, is the fact that later in the game he's not going to have anybody to support him. He doesn't have a Wisp, he doesn't have even like an Ogre Magi that can give him some attack speed boost. He himself is just going to be played as an assassin here. They're going to try to get in, do some quick burst damage with an Avalanche Toss combo, maybe using Blink to get there, and Clockwork to initiate as well. But iCCup picking up the Clinks, and we're going to see some big action from Jackal right here. This is going to be really interesting. As far as how they're going to lane it, it's a little bit weird because Sven, Luna, and Clinks all want some considerable farm, but the fact of the matter is Jackal, Clinks, you give him an opportunity to farm up that Orchid, and he's going to go to town on just about anyone, whether the Anti-Mage or, for that matter, the Tiny is pretty squishy in the sense that he starts with a base armor of 0, so this is going to be really weird, but he will have some experience advantage just for the fact that he's going on the mid lane, 1 versus 1 up against the Magnus, both of them going for pretty quick bottle rushes, but we do see an aggressive tri-lane with a supportive Sven. I have seen Leech's Zik opt for a Sven previously. I don't think it was with a Luna, but it's still going to be a very powerful hero. I think it was with a Lifesteal the last time I saw them grouping up together in this fashion. But yeah, Ouija Zik is going to play supportive Sven. Looking at his net worth, he's sitting at 113, so a lot of consumables. And he's just going to try to set up Luna for as much success as possible. But in the meantime, Anti-Mage has that poor man shield, is going to be able to do quite a bit, and of course Nyx Assassin is considered one of the best lane controllers just based on the amount of disable. If they try to throw any AoE damage that way, even a Stormbolt, he could tank it up and stun out and actually do damage to the Sven instead. So that could be pretty effective there.
I do feel, however, that the Radiant side does have a bit of advantage in that tri-lane versus tri-lane situation, just because of the Keeper of the Light. They have a lot more sustain, and with a Sven that can constantly be Stormbolting, it's very scary. So, Keeper of the Light allows for these kind of melee supports with like bad mana pools like Earthshaker and Sven to be so much more effective than they would be otherwise. Another interesting thing to note is that I believe that Radiant is going to dominate the bot lane just because they have pooled so many supplies on this Clinks. Clinks started with Wraithband and double branches, and then on top of that was given a bunch of restoratives. He's going to demolish the Clockwork in lane.
I gotta say, I don't know if you're watching on the top room, but I cannot fathom Ouija's thought process there. He just spent a lot of mana for a Stormbolt and a Nyx who was going to turn invisible and could have Carapaced it if he had good reflexes too. So really, there was no way that was going to be very effective. But trying to, start off with the aggression, start off with some high potential there, but instead just costing them a clarity. And now Nyx has that Invis to start things off with, possibly a really good Impale if they want to go for the 3v3 skirmish early on. As far as that goes, it looks like they're in a position Solo wants to stack and pull. And if they can get that off, that's all the more power to them as they can control the flow of the lane a lot more effectively. But for the time being, it's going to be all about who's in the right position if they can get a good kill off, and I'd say the most vulnerable is definitely going to be Rubik right here, but it looks like Nyx is going to opt for picking up that mana burn right off the bat, has a couple clarities in store, and yeah, Sven is going to have a hard time keeping that Stormbolt available if that's going to be the choice that Nyx goes for there.
Yeah, if you look at the sentry placement by the Radiant team, they actually got a little bit greedy. They wanted to check for lane wards while giving them a little vision on the back, and I think they can just barely not see this. And they're, this is a very good ward when you're playing against a Coddle that's aggressively tri-laning you, because otherwise he's just going to go and blast all your camps. Does that block the spawn, though? No, okay.
No.
Like the hard camp spawn?
Actually, it might. It actually juts out pretty far aggressively north, so I'm not 100% certain there, but the fact that they have that coverage and don't have to worry about the Keeper Light, despite the Sentry Ward coming out, is probably well worth it. They don't really use that Western spawn that much, and it actually might be beneficial in the sense that the Radiant won't be able to use that for manipulation there. Either way, though, it looks like J4 is going to get a little bit of farm on the Luna, but I think the main focus here is going to be the Clinks. I was mentioning Jackal's Clinks early, and if you take your eyes off him, he's not only going to be pressuring off Clockwork to very critical HP levels early on, but he's going to be moving in toward, he's just going to, all of a sudden, before he even boots the speed, he's going to have an Orchid Malevolence, and he's going to use it to just completely obliterate whoever he chooses. But in the meantime, in the mid lane, Tiny has a bottle filled up with the double damager, and starting that off, he does have a little bit more control over the lane. Neither one of them are easy kills based on the fact that there's a lot of strength. Oh my gosh, double damage skewing him back. There is, however, the toss combo and a couple more right clicks. They need one more right click beyond the first, and that's not going to be sufficient. So in the meantime, just forcing them back, forcing some charges, tangos. I'm assuming they're going to have to bottle crow, but for the time being, it's a ground courier just now flown up and probably going to head towards that mid lane to help out Sunlight in that position there.
Yeah, I do think that Tiny has an advantage in this lane until the Magnus gets around level 5, and then Shockwave spam is just too much to deal with.
Avalanche, right click? Nah, I mean, it's not enough. It's just, he can't even get close enough, unfortunately. Tiny is actually pretty slow without his ultimate, 285 movement speed compared to 315 on the Magnus. Unless he gets a really... unless Sunlight underestimates him, yeah, Tiny's generally not going to be able to close the distance there, but looks like there's a nice Illuminate coming up top, just going to clear some creeps. I really am waiting for that. The second that they break out, they go for the 3v3, and it's going to be a lot of damage across the board, but I don't know when they're going to get the opportunity to do so with the fact that there's creeps pretty much everywhere. Anti-Mage with that poor man's shield farming under tower safely, and right now, I gotta say, looking at the experience per minute especially, that the tri-lane on top isn't really accomplishing what it needs to.
Yeah, but I think, they're doing okay, and they're getting Clinks a lot of farm, and, once the Clinks is able to impact the map, they'll be able to go and farm up the Luna. I would like to go and see this Coddle, when they're not able to do much, go and start stacking the Ancients, or, even the Magnus, go and start stacking Ancients, because they do need to be able to get back in the game somehow, but I don't think it's too bad, because the Anti-Mage isn't farming particularly well either. He's sitting at 10 creeps, right? So it's like, you're basically... both of your carriers aren't farming, and you have a Clinks farming another lane versus a Clockwork, so I think it's okay.
Yeah, well, I guess it'll be a lot on the shoulders of both of the bottom lane heroes here. Jackal, of course, going to get some big items early on, but I'm expecting possibly some big hook shots coming out of Lawlake. I mean, they're not going to pick up a hero that he can't use to a very effective degree, especially when so much is on the line here. In this best of one, they have to pick up what they know and what they are comfortable with. Try to be unorthodox, but also make sure that you're stable in your lineup, otherwise it's going to cost you quite a bit here. And so, obviously picking up the Clockwork, I'm going to expect some big action out of him, and hopefully can get some good snipes. Actually, up on top, Anti-Mage dropping pretty low there. Very happy that we got the rank 1 in Spell Shield there, because she took a lot of magic damage right off the bat with the Losing Beam, with the Stormbolt there. He was dropped very low, but picking up the Salve, the Magic Stick, surviving for the time being, and lives to fight another day, farm another creep.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. If you look at his build, he's opting for a lot of points in Mana Break, and that's a little bit more aggressive than I would have thought. While this might not be a good game for a lot of stats...
Oh, mid lane, Tiny picking up the first blood right here. Nice combo. Just getting the right position, and yeah, unfortunately, Sunlight not able to do enough and getting dropped down there.
Yeah, I wanted to mention this earlier, but I really miss mid Tiny. This is actually, well, I gotta admit, it's very effective.
Nah, she's fine. She's alright. They have a good counter initiation with this Fen. It did cost them a lot, though, and until Fang gets that rank 2 Chakra Magic, it's going to hurt them more and more. It looks like they did have vision, did have vision of the Tiny flanking on end, but he's just going for the Arcane Boots. But like you said, mid Tiny is amazing. I mean, carry is high potential as well, but the fact of the matter is, with Tiny getting to level 9, he's just going to deal so much damage. All he has to do is close the distance, which, fortunate for him, Sunlight is actually allowing him to do. Kind of thinking his skewer will save the day, and Sharfeek is going to be able to just kind of pull on out of it and do a lot with it. So it's very effective, and now he's bottle crowing a little bit himself to make sure he has tons of mana to control the runes at the 6-minute spawn.
Bot lane.
Oh shoot, I didn't realize. He has the dust already popped off. The battery assault is doing a lot, but now going on creeps just a little bit. He's not going to be able to close the distance. A rocket, not enough. So close, 35 HP, but it's not going to be insufficient unless he gets a really good rocket at 10 seconds from now. But Jackal, in the meantime, just juking on through. Skeleton Walk still active, not revealed, then probably not going to get hit by this next rocket. So Clockwork's going to go for it, I'm sure, but whether or not it's going to work, most likely not.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really good decision-making by the Clinks to go and actually pick up the boots there. If he did not have boots, he would actually be dead. As soon as he, you see that the Clockwork's picked up dust and has a commitment to actually trying to kill you, you really need to be a little bit more defensive than you'd like to be.
Sure enough, sure enough.
And now he's just going to Death Pact and, be basically healed.
Yeah, good. Really nice teamwork and cooperation with the fact that Sunlight helped them out with the bottle there, putting them back up. It's kind of like we saw a couple games back, actually, just last game with the Anti-Mage being farmed up so aggressively. Right. They really put him on their shoulders and just carried him so that he could later on carry them. The fact is they stacked very aggressively for him, and in this case, they're just making sure that Clinks can sustain indefinitely on the lane one way or another. So he's doing pretty well right now, sitting at 41 last hits compared to Clock's 23. And the fact that the 90 gold was committed for the dust and to no avail, that really, really puts iCCup pretty well on the front end. But here comes the hookshot. I'm not sure if it's worth it, but popping off, yeah, the dust and the battery assault. There isn't that much damage coming out of battery assault, though, and it's really, Jackal's just going to walk away from that, only losing not even 200 HP.
Yeah, with that rank 3 skeleton walk, he's just not going to be able to go and close the distance. 33% increased move speed is actually insane. He basically can haste rune when he wants to. Also, if you look at it, this Keeper of the Light has actually transitioned into the woods and is looking to farm it up, but with that decision to get an extra point in Illuminate instead of Chakra Magic, it's not going to be as effective as it normally would. I'm actually fairly curious. I can understand getting an extra point in Illuminate if you're top, but even then it's a little bit questionable. We'll see how it plays out, though. You're definitely able to do more damage, and that's good.
And now it looks like Keeper of the Light has transitioned in towards the mid, which is effective in the regard that he will actually be able to use his Illuminate ability. It's such a powerful counter-push mechanism, but up against the Nyx, it's just as likely that you'll burn down yourself rather than the opponent. The pony's kind of turning against you in that regard. So it's actually effective that he can transition into different lanes and try to do what he can, but is that Tiny going for a blink pretty quickly? 900 gold saved up, I believe he will, and if he can get that out at a good time, these supports are going to be in a bad spot. Speaking of, Sunlight going for the Skewer to start things off. Nyx popping off that Carapace early, not stunning out anybody. Here comes the Lucent Beam, followed by the Stormbolt, and that's going to be an easy kill despite the double impale. So, big impale, reverse polarity. Now Nyx is taking a lot of damage. Tiny coming in with a triple avalanche, and actually going with that combo of the ultimate, cleaning up the Luna, now looking for the Magnus, and with a big ulti from Clockwork. I mean, he was close, but it's enough to make sure they can close the distance here, try to finish it off. They get the toss, and they have the rocket too. So really, really beautiful play from IC, cleaning up 3 heroes, which would have been a death, and actually didn't check out where Sven died to rocket. Beautiful rocket, closing the distance on the Sven, bringing him down, making it 4 kills for... Did the Nyx, I assume the Nyx died, or... Did he get out of there?
The Nyx did die. The Nyx did die.
Okay, so 4 for 1, but holy crap, really good transition from IC and going in exactly where they needed to do, putting themselves in a really good position to move on forward with this now kill advantage. Yes, Clinks has been free farming the whole time and soon will have his Orchid, but nevertheless, getting that many kills on the Tiny, he will have his Blink Dagger in just 600 gold.
Yeah, he's definitely in a really good position now. He's always going to get a kill on mid lane. Yep. And that's the power of Tiny. I think that, this Magnus, is just not respecting the damage Tiny can do in the mid lane. It's probably, since Tiny's fallen out of favor as a mid hero, they probably just don't have the experience you need. You can't allow Tiny to close the distance. This Magnus can win the lane by just bottle crowing and shockwave spamming, but by going and walking up to the creeps, he's putting himself in a lot of danger.
Meantime, top tier 1 is being brought down gradually by Nexus, poking on along with that, and yeah, it's not in our range just yet, but he will be able to bring it down whenever he gets the opportunity, and that means that they're going to be more gold on the board for them. They're going to have that blink up. Clockwork will have some more survivability to work with, which is essential for that hero to actually initiate without just sacrificing himself in for a, effectively a nature's prophet sprout. But yeah, I mean, he proved his worth in that last gank up top with the TP on in and going a point blank range hook shot, but following up with a nice rank 4 rocket flare snipe to finish the job. Really, really effective there. And it's interesting because he didn't really build to win the lane in 1 versus 1 against the Clinks. If you'd want to do that, you would max out your battery assault, but he went for the presence, being able to rocket across the map, having the potential to snipe people off, and of course it's a short cooldown, high damage nuke, and now actually throwing in the Nyx to get a combo stun off. There is going to be that skewer on out, but it's not enough. Reverse polarity underneath the tower though. Big Illuminate as well. That is the Stormbolt. Will they be able to bring down Tiny? Finally he takes a fall. So they actually played really aggressively, but there were 4 people. They expected only 1 or 2, and instead there were 4 to retaliate. So nice positioning from iCCup, and ballsy play from IC didn't pay off in this circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, just that goes to show the power of words. I mean, with that word on the Radiant High Ground, great clock hook. And that goes, lighting him out, but...
Wow, the rocket enough, though. Yeah. If that rocket hadn't been there, that would have been a beautiful blinding light, but Shockwave, is it there? He has a Shockwave, the anti-mage comes on in, it's not enough damage. Nexus kind of trying to turn things around, but not going to commit the polarity. Going to get instead by the Lucent Beam right here, a couple more right clicks, and he's going to be able to blink away barely with that magic stick. But yeah, it was a nice attempt, but yeah, I think the hookshot hit on the Magnus instead of the Keeper, so delayed his wild goose chase there, but he was able to bring him down without losing anything. So despite having only 4 armor at this stage, he really needs a little bit more time for his 2.3 agi to kick in, but at this point in time, he's proven effective, and he's going for that Urn of Shadows, which is just such a great high utility item that a lot of people seem to underestimate these days.
Yep. On the other hand, there's a Clinks on bot lane who is about to have his, in just 1 creep, is going to have his Orchid. And I think that's going to really change the tenor of the game. Because once he has that Orchid, you can't see heroes like this Nyx just kind of, roaming around. Because the silence duration is going to be long enough that he's never going to be able to get Spike Paris off. Same thing with this Rubik. But in anticipation, it looks like they are all grouped up and are just leaving the Anti-Mage to go and farm a lane. I'm curious to see what he's going to go for. Okay, yes, the Anti-Mage is going to completely skip the Battle Fury. He wasn't able to get in a good time, and he's given up on it now. And I think this means they are going to actually try to contest the iCCup team in the mid game, because with Treads and a Yasha, Anti-Mage can actually put out a very reasonable amount of damage considering he maxed Mana Break. I'm not sure how good it's going to be though. If there's a good reverse polarity coming out, it's not going to be enough.
Now, one thing to mention is that Luna hasn't been getting very much farm at all. J4 sitting on only 32 last hits and can get disabled pretty aggressively. Jackal finding out Tiny is going to find an opportunity here. The teammates are really, really close, so he has to pick his battles carefully, but if he gets that silence off, at least we won't have to worry about the stun. I think Sven really wanted to follow up with a Stormbolt, but knew he couldn't close the distance. Either way, the timing is weird because Tiny has two quick abilities to counteract what Jackal intends to do. If he's Orchids him before the auto attack volley comes on through, he can just blink away if he's fast enough on the reflexes, and if he doesn't get Orchided, then he can just avalanche right before Jackal puts that up. So it's careful timing, depends on Sharf, who actually is going to get a visual advantage right here, sees what's going on with Clinks, is just going to fall back from there. As far as detection goes, what we're looking at for the Diary is actually absolutely nothing except for the dust on the Clockwork, and now Blink Initiation actually going to pick off the Coddle, and just TP away. Is the Stormbolt there? Is the Skewer going to work? No. None of it. He could have polarity technically, but wants to commit it right here, popping off almost two. Rubik. No, he didn't cast it. It was canceled whatsoever. So Telekinesis throws him back up. They get the kill on the Rubik now with the Haster and pursuing onto Clockwork, and he won't be able to ulti out of this with the Orchid active. Definitely going to get dropped down here. And now actually turning things around to Nyx. They have the Sentry Ward in pursuit of him, but they don't have any way of checking them out. They do have rank 1 Vendetta, so it is going to be expiring in only about 8 seconds here. But the question is whether or not that will be the time frame. No, it's the initiation. Zik pops off a nice war cry to keep his armor going. Survives for the time being. Skewer goes on through. The ultimate of Anti-Mage, not enough. And now they're turning their focus over to... No, Nyx is dropping down really fast. He might die to the Orchid, but Tiny with a beautiful stun toss combo. And actually, yeah, Nyx dies barely to the Illuminate. And now J4 caught up in the air. It's stuck up. Their beautiful blinding light. There's a nice Eclipse. Are they going to get a kill here? No. Tiny tossed away to be able to do some damage to FNG with the double blink. Going to be able to finish the job here. Only one to survive is the Sven who got initiated on in the first place. Wow, IC just all over the map. Using a global, such high mobility with Anti-Mage's Blink, with the Blink Dagger of Tiny, with Clockwork, Winnie needs the hookshot, and they were just able to make the plays where they counted.
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be such an irritating thing to play against, because if there's anyone, you can't really... Oh, and here's another... Yeah, the range of initiation is way too high. He's able to skew himself out, but I think he's going to die. Ooh, maybe not.
Yeah.
I would actually love to see this Clockwork go for a Necrobook, just to go and kind of give them a little... That aura, especially, is going to tip things in the favor. The Tiny will get an extra auto attack off. Anti-Mage might get an extra 2 auto attacks off. The Mana Burn is going to be super relevant. Is this Magnus, who I'd like to point out, he was on Brown Boots for a very long time. I think he wanted to rush a Blink, but now he's just kind of given up, picked up Arcanes, but he's very behind in comparison to this Tiny, who picked up a Gem. This is a very early gem. They do not want this Clinks to be effective in fights at all. They're taking serious measures to make sure that the Radiant team can't get anything going.
Sure enough. And they're doing some really good just positioning control on the map, as far as just making sure they have good wards up. Having good map control, they're going to be able to sentry up on the bottom rune spawn. I think there was only a sentry there, so they're not taking out observers, but now they know that the enemies aren't there, and they don't even have to commit sentries anymore. With that gem, they can go anywhere and find any opportunity to bring somebody down, and they have a very gank-oriented lineup now. They have the Anti-Mage who can take them into the late game if they need to, but right now they can pretty much just find anybody that's farming, anybody that's out of position, and go very, very aggressive on them indeed. So right now I think that iCCup are doing the right thing. They're just, creep skipping a bit, trying to put some pressure on the tier 1, but meanwhile they're going to lose a lot if they don't try to defend this tier 2 right here.
Yeah, I don't think they're in a position to really be able to defend it, though, especially with that Clink stop. And he does not, in fact, have a TP scroll, so it's just, they're not going to get anything going.
So, yeah, disadvantageous trade with the fact that they're losing the tier 2 for a tier 1, and actually Fortify coming out for Dire. I don't know if they're going to TP on into it, and I doubt it. I mean, just based on the staggered aspect of TPs. They could try to defend it now that they've fallen back, but it kind of feels more like iCCup's baiting them to just try and defend it if they only send 1 or 2 at a time. Yeah, that works. I mean, they don't have any way of closing the distance. With that tier 2 down on bottom, and the tier 1 down on mid, they have to walk all the way there pretty much. They'd have no way of closing distance. Anti-Mage didn't go for like a Vladimir's or anything, but it should not be that difficult to bring him down at minimal cost to their team lineup in general.
Yeah. Now it looks like this Tiny is now, after this, he's going for the super mobility build, picking up a 4-staff next, I guess. That could be an Ag Stick, but I really doubt it, considering if you were going for Ag Stick, you'd probably pick up the point booster first. So we're going to see that really old school, sick assassin Tiny, and I'm really excited. I think they're doing a great job. With the anti-mage that's like being very aggressive, you'll notice like he's had plenty of opportunities to kind of like leave the team and farm, but he has decided instead to join them for pretty much every single fight. And with that rank 4 mono break, dishing out a ton of damage.
Yeah, I hate to say it, I don't know if it would work out, but you could possibly be a Dagon on the Tiny there. I mean, if he wants to go for just complete steamroll, it's terrible in late game, I understand, but at this point, 18 minutes in, there's a squishy Keeper Light, nowhere near a mechanism, sitting at 600 HP. You can assassinate him just with an Avalanche and a Dagon and a right-click. I mean, that could work out pretty effectively there, but he goes for the 4-staff, he goes for the build you were talking about, just high mobility, now smoking up with increased movement speed all the way from the fountain. It's a long way to run, but if they can get where they want to, they can definitely look to pick somebody off. And of course, they still have that gem, really, really essential there. But I gotta say, Luna is just really on the back. I mean, everybody that was on the top lane, I mentioned how it was very ineffective. They weren't controlling where the stacks and pulls were happening. And now, looking at their levels in general, they have a level 6 Keeper Light at level 7 and 8, Sven and Luna respectively. And as far as last hits, like when I said that Keeper Light's nowhere near mech, it's because he only has branches and boots, nothing else. And now the initiation comes on in. Luna getting picked off here, and with that impale, mana burn. Who's going to right click? It's like deciding who's going to last hit. I don't know what Scarf is doing, letting him survive, but in the meantime, there is an attempt for ultimate reverse polarity coming out. Sunlight going to be able to skewer on away and pop off a little bit of shockwave. Gets the reverse polarity, barely survives, 40 HP. Beautiful Illuminate doing tons of damage right now. Nyx walking away from the tower, but Anti-Mage blinking in, scoops up a kill on the Magnus, only to drop down and pop off the Aegis himself. And the one thing I gotta say is I was like staring at this Tiny, waiting for him to right click on this Luna, and he was just clicking around her for some reason, so just a bit of a misplay by that, and Sharf misses an easy kill, but she survives the Magnus and the Klink's Fall, Clock, and the Aegis the Immortal as well.
You know, that was really confusing. I have no idea what they were doing there, but beyond that, I remember what this lineup from IC reminds me of. This, actually, Virtus Pro is being known to do a lineup where they, it's similar, right? But instead of having the Rubik, and, like, the heroes are different, but it basically relies on a very long initiation range with heroes like Clockwork, and they center the lineup around the fact that they can go in on the enemy team immediately, right? From anywhere on the map they can go in. VP likes to do this when they have a CK Wisp, but I think the principle applies, and this is a very fun way to play Dota. DD on the Tiny as well. But what do you do against this? You know, you can't really farm safely, because as soon as they see one of you, they can pick it off. They have a semi-global team. With a Clockwork, you're basically able to go and, like, you know, push back other lanes just by spamming blocking.
Yeah, there's a big, just super stuns, tossed up in the air twice over, and one more right click, blinding light. Oh my gosh, if he survives. Clockwork ulti comes on out, stun on one, the Eclipse pops off. It looks like Clockwork's going to take a fall. The Cogs, however, breaking apart the battlefield quite effectively. Now Tiny doing so much damage with that double damage rune, just right clicking on down, 2 kills, 2 hits, just quick punches, and finishing the job with an avalanche. Beautiful fight for them, and they just completely dominate them. Now sitting at 8-1 and 10 on this Tiny. Holy crap, that double damage do work, and they just found the right position. I feel that iCCup pushing up this cliff right here, way out of bounds, and they completely paid for it.
It's definitely very sad for iCCup right now, because you have to look at, like, what can they do? They're forced to 5-man, and, like, theoretically they have a really good 5-man lineup with this, with the reverse polarity, with the Illuminate, you've got Lunar Eclipse, even the Stormbolt's fantastic in teamfights. But the teamfights are never going to work out the way they want to, because they can just blink into a good position, pick off a support, pick off the Klinks who's trying to be safe, and they never get that nice cluster, right? Because as soon as, you know, Tiny blinks in, kills one person, 4 staffs away. Anti-Mage goes, kills one person, blinks out. They've got too much mobility within the fights.
Sure enough. Beyond that, I mean, Tiny's kind of turned into a core hero very effectively at this point on, with the fact that he can initiate and close the distance. About to hit that ultimate level 16. It is a very slow attack. One thing I was talking about in the draft phase is how he kind of falls off as far as damage potential, just straight off the fact that after one right click, his base attack time is so substantial. Actually, his base attack time is unaffected technically. It's just the percent-based modifier on his attack is reduced substantially to the point that it's very hard to land more than just one quick right click there. So that opportunity is kind of narrow, but right now, I think what iCCup needs to do to stay in the game is look for big polarities. The problem is the initiation. There's a blink on half the heroes, and actually starting off, Tiny misses a stun, pops off the toss, now gets stunned out himself. Shockwave's going on through. He's surviving for the timing. Has that regen rune. We'll probably just pop it off after the Illuminate, but beautiful mana burn following the Impaled for Nyx Assassin to pick up a kill on the Luna here. It's a really nice play there, but yeah, Tiny's just going to regen up her as well for some reason, and yeah, be able to do whatever they need to do now. The Roche will not be responding for 5 minutes, so they have pretty much the open battlefield. No real objectives, they just want to keep control. Pen in the opposition, maybe take the tier 2 up top, and make sure that they have pretty much all control over the map, forcing them into the base here. But in the meantime, I really love this board placement by Solo. He's placed a couple really good ones. This one's about to expire, I believe. Has 2 minutes left on it, but look at just the dire vision straight up. They have well, of course, Creep's providing some on the front lines here, but providing vision into the eastern camp. They can't farm their jungle safely. They can't even reinforce their tier 2 without being under the watchful eye of those wards there. So, moving forward, Ghost Scepter up on Nyx. He might be going for an Ethereal Rush, but in the meantime, just using the Ghost to make sure that he can survive effectively for those right clicks coming on through from the Clink specifically, because that Orchid plus the Strafe combo with the Searing Arrows up are very, very painful. And that's pretty much the only option is to cast an item since you are silenced out.
Yeah, this Clinks is also just going straight for that BKB. I think this is a perfect choice. They really need it so he can sit in fights and actually attack. Same thing with Luna. She needs a BKB, but she only just finished treads. Like, in the beginning of the game, they were fairly even. Both the Anti-Mage and the Luna weren't farming, but after that really disastrous fight top, the Luna's like fallen off and not being able to get creeps at all. I hope this also, the Tiny's gone and sitting at about 26k, and I was going to say that he'd probably just go for AC to kind of supplement the Anti-Mage's attack speed, provide some minus armor, and give him a little bit more right click. But with that pickup from the Vlads on the Anti-Mage, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go straight for a Hex or maybe a Shivas, just to go and give them a little bit more burst damage, and yeah, this is dead Clinks.
Yeah, most certainly. Oh! Doesn't have Force Staff or Blink available, but the Rocket, oh, beautiful snipe by Clock. Yeah, just, MLG no scope, I suppose, but they're able to pick off and find that opportunity. And the big thing you mentioned before, but Skeleton Walk gives so much MS. You have to do some good prediction for it, but it works out. I mean, that's why you play Clockwork, is because you can do some good movement prediction with a little bit of delay built into it. So the Blink finally comes out on Magnus, and that's going to help them quite a bit as far as that initiation that they really need to make happen. And if they can catch 3 to 4 inside that reverse polarity, specifically making sure that the Rubik is one of them, then they can go for the Stormbolt and follow up. But generally speaking, Solo's Solo's not going to be near his allies. He's just going to be able to make sure that he's outside, always popping off instead. And apparently some counter push Stormbolts coming on through.
Casual Stormbolts. That's a zoning Stormbolt. Don't want next to your creeps. But the second Force Staff is up on Rubik, and now he's going to join the party of the mobility squad. Meanwhile, the one problem with their lineup is the Anti-Mage actually, he's great in fights, but he does have any slippage potential. He does have the Manta available, and Vlad does give the creeps out, but without that Battle Fury, they can't really pressure 2 lanes. They want to go and get a pick-off outside of the base, or wait for this Rosh. In 2 minutes, if they get another Roshan up, they'll just be able to kind of bulldog their way into the base.
And one thing to keep in mind is, although it kind of feels like the iCCup... Oh, he did, actually. He went for the Force Staff and then the Dagon. You just get a lot of intellect, can continuously just, avalanche after avalanche after avalanche. Who cares if it's a 10-second cooldown on toss at least. He's just going to be able to do that big burst. And Keeper Light is still so far behind on items. His net worth is 1,800, 26 minutes in the game, just running around literally running circles around his buildings as he has to completely turtle up in base. His job for the rest of the game is just to cast horses out across the creep waves that are pushing down the towers. That's pretty much all he can contribute. Don't get me wrong, the thing is to drop some really nice blinding lights, but as far as his potential, he'll just get 2-shot by anything that IC is bringing at this point in time. And now Solo, with that Force Staff, can actually do some really beautiful reverse polarity counter initiations. Dare I say Rubik polarities, I guess would probably be the most descriptive way to go with that. But either way, I expect to see some big pickoffs. If Tiny has sights on anybody outside their base, he's going to go for them. He's going to get a quick opportunity to pick them off.
The thing is, I don't know how effective this Dagon's going to be, just because, there's no one that's in that critical range where it's Tiny can almost kill them, but he needs a Dagon to push it over. Maybe the Clinks when the Clinks hasn't eaten a creep, but he could already one combo the Keeper of the Lake, right? The Sven, like, he's not going to actually be able to kill the Sven because Sven went double Bracer. So I'm kind of questioning on this one. It looks like they're just... Yeah.
The fact is they have to do team fights now. There's no pickoffs.
Yeah.
We're not in that stage. Actually, Antimage taking a lot of damage, getting picked off right here, doing a lot of damage to Luna. Might go for the blink too aggressive. Yeah, he wants to bring down J4. One more right click. All he needs. The steering arrow's doing so much. Oh, gets it. Luna tries to turn around for the last hit, but turn radius too strong. And so with that too much turning time, they're going to be able to bring him down. But now they know that one Luna down, one Klink's not in base for the time being. Now teleporting back, but they could go aggressive, and indeed they do. Tossing back into Magnus. He actually has a good opportunity for double polarity. Pops it off before there is a toss on out. So really, really nice play by the mech, keeping them alive for the time being. Fang on low life gets obliterated. One more right click is all they need on him. Clock on the run. Haste not going to save him. And actually Fang survives for the time being. So yeah, in the end, chopping on in, and that Magnus counter initiation really setting them up effectively so that Rubik and Clockwork both dropping down. And Tiny, nothing he can do but run away. And now Roche is back up, so if they took this very, very narrow time window, they might be able to get some wards up at the very least and try to put pressure out, but that Geometry Sight is still a very great thorn in their side.
Yeah, I think that was just really greedy play by the Tiny. They wanted to get something done, and he didn't really have the supporting squad. If the Nyx was just a touch, Nyx getting a nice solo kill on the Luna there.
Not getting caught out. We just like not getting the Stormbolt off, and I don't think it would have mattered that much anyways. His reinforcements were pretty far off, even though Skewer and Blink range is pretty substantial. Now Jackal finding an opportunity will go for Rubik instead. Actually, nice turnaround. Oh my gosh, what is going on here? Everybody tossing around with the Force Staff, with the initiation from the Skewer. Now Clockwork on in. Drops everybody back with the cogs, popping off the mechanism, surviving for the time being. Another Force Staff forward, trying to close the distance, but it's not going to happen. There's going to be a Blink escape from the Magnus right before the Avalanche comes on down, and with a little bit of Stormbolt action, they'll disengage for the time being. However, Klink's still available. He's trying to hide out, but that Geometry Sight, doing what it needs to do. So in the meantime, they just force them back. Probably going to go and take a Roshan for pretty much no cost. I mean, they push out the lanes a little bit, and there's really no choice for iCCup but to defend. But in the end, it was a little bit back and forth as far as all those mobility items with Force Staves, the Skewers, tosses, all that good stuff. It really shapes the battlefield really interestingly, I suppose I could say.
Yeah, I would agree. This Antimage also, I just keep going back to this Antimage because I feel like he's like going to need to do something impressive this game if they want to go high ground. And while this will seem really strange, he's going for the Butterfly now, but I don't think it would have been too bad if he just went back and picked up a Battle Fury. He would have the gold for it now, and that allows them to split push in a way that will set themselves up to go and get picks. Because unless they get picks, or like, Tiny decided to go to Ags or something, they don't have the team that can go and really easily fight through Skewers and reverse polarities and illuminates and blinding lights. They've got to figure something out. And Nyx is going for another Blink Dagger of his own, so they have a great team to pick someone off, but, you can't rely on that to get you into their base, so a little bit difficult now.
Yep, a lot of counter push coming on out, even though the carries really can't contribute too much. Klink's for Jackal doing pretty much all the work for his team, farming up on top, and yeah, he's doing what he can, but he has the BKB, and that's pretty much all he can opt for at that point in time. As far as disables, the one thing he has to worry about the most is honestly his own teammates' reverse polarity, if Rubik can pull that off, but otherwise Clockwork Ultimate is literally the only thing that will actually stun him. I actually forget about the Crag Exterior. I think it's nullified by magic, but I'm not 100%.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay,
but also, this Tiny is leveling his Dagon, which seems very strange, but I think it's actually the right decision here if you're going to go for this late game Dagon. He's really committing to being able to burst someone down. The level 1 Dagon's not going to be able to do it, but if he gets that Dagon up to level 3, level 4, it's not an efficient item, gold-wise, but that additional damage from the nuke is going to be enough to tip into the point where he can even burst down, about like a 2k HP Glinks.
Yeah, they're trying to break high ground, and they know they have the Aegis to work with, but even with that Vlad lifestealing up, you're seeing that counter push do so much. I really wish Rubik would go for the steal on the Illuminate, honestly, to try to just like one-shot creep waves immediately with a well-timed, knowing they spawn at the 30 seconds, and then kind of try to force the tower down real quick. But the poke is working. The Warcry was stolen by Rubik, but that really doesn't do too much. 60 armor is not to be underestimated, but I'm not sure if it'll allow them to finish this last 300 HP. In the meantime, Klinks is still in the mid lane. Probably going to fall back in just a moment. Yeah, the tier 3 finally falling. Now they're can pretty much, it's any man's fight. The Manta Style has been popped off, though. The Aegis Mortal available, and Butterfly in the stash of the anti-mage. Probably just going to wait for that to come on out. As he did commit, I mean, you bought the butterfly, you might as well pick it up because you're not going to have a buyback available. So he knows he has the Aegis, and it's kind of, I'm surprised they're doing this, but they feel they have the initiation. Force Staff, nice. Eclipse coming on through, a lot of damage onto Tiny. Will he get dropped down? He does have a Dagon too, wants to throw it the other direction, but for the time being, Magnus is the one tossed up for the time being. Toss, Impale, Mana Burn, trying to bring down the Magnus in time, and they do with that Dagon. Clockwork ulting on in, trying to bring down the Luna. Does he have Cogs? He already exhausted them, and with that, he will be picked off right here. Lost the melee racks, the buyback from Magnus. Will he get the polarity he's looking for? Already popped his Blink and Skewer, stunned up, telekinesis up, not going to be enough. Now there is on the back end, Fang getting obliterated by the Nyx. Jackal trying to clean things up. Solo on such low life. Well, 2 more. Hey, that might be. No, it won't be enough. I don't believe the amplification. Nah, not at all. Only 2 right clicks landing on him, and it was just a little bit of lack of focus. Instead, Nyx is actually surviving, popping off that Carapace, using the Blink and Ghost Scepter together really effectively. Jackal going in, pops that BKB, perfect timing, kills the Tiny, and it's actually now the polarity goes down, bringing down the Nyx Assassin as well. Really, really nice play by Jackal. Perfect timing on that BKB. Like, the rocks must have been like an inch from his face, and suddenly shrugs them off as he brings down 2 of his foes. And Anti-Mage just goes to farm up and try to get that butterfly ace up.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think when the Tiny went back, they overstayed their welcome just a little bit there. You know, as soon as he saw the Clinks, you gotta assume it's just a matter of, like, assuming that your enemies will be able to hit their buttons quickly enough. Because, I don't know, I feel that they should have seen that one coming just a little bit. But in the end, they did get the racks. They killed the Luna again. This Luna has still no items, still no BKB even. They killed the Clinks once, I believe, so it's just going to be harder and harder for the Radiant to come back. We talked about before how difficult it was for them to go and go high ground when there's no split pushing ability. But now that you have a lane of Mega Creeps, you'll have that split push ability kind of just naturally worked in.
But one thing to... Oh my gosh, J4, please kill Leech. Okay, I thought I was going to die to neutrals for a second. But one thing to look at is the experience graph is actually shifting a little bit the other direction. There were so many kills on the board. There was such an advantage, 26 to 16, as you can see. At the 25-minute mark, it peaked out and allowed them to have huge levels and be able to pick off anybody. Speaking of, Sven pretty much just wandered into the wrong neighborhood. Not sure what he was all about there, but anyways, yeah, as far as that experience goes, though, it's coming back towards iCCup. It's very gradual, but the fact of the matter is, you can the Jackal is farming very aggressively, has Empower, is going to have MKB in a long time, actually, and he's just going to backdoor this Tier 1 because there's no protection on T1, so finds a nice opportunity there. But beyond that, it's just the fact that the Dire are grouping up so much. IC really want to break high ground, but they've committed so much time, all as 5, and with that, there's a little bit of spread experience with Jackal kind of going on the back end of things.
You know, but the problem is, like, while there's an experience advantage coming out for the Radiant side, not expanded, but they're, like, recouping, it's basically all on the Clinks. If you look at the level spread, Clinks is level 21, and the next highest Radiant player is 13. So they're relying on... What is that smoke? Okay.
Yeah, anyways, Keeper Light bringing out some illuminating damage. They're trying to push him, but the tower's going to fall. There's no Fortify, and with that, and Nexus is just going to pick that off and run for the hills. He still has the Aegis, but not for too much longer. Actually only has about 40 seconds left on the thing. Needs to work on it right now, as he does have Butterfly. Pretty good effective health, but really, they have no way to jump on in. Instead, Solo goes with that Force Staff Telekinesis. The Clockwork ulti does miss, but oh, beautiful polarity popping off on 3. Rubik will pop it off on 2 as well, so he does steal it up. The Eclipse doing a lot of damage. Jackal bringing down Nexus, gonna pop off that Aegis at the very least, now finishing off Clockwork on the back end, trying to hunt down Tiny, but he's just a little too beefy. In the end, though, Nexus in a bad spot, blinks away, and he might just get on out of there. They're dealing with his illusions in his wake, but it is Jackal in pursuit, trying to bring down Nexus, but I think the blink is just a little bit too fast. At the very least, he can TB scroll if that's all he needs. But in the end, I think that was pretty awesome, forcing them back out of the base, and they were able to get quite a few kills out of Jackal. He did pop off another BKB, but that Monkey King bar is up. It does so much with that strafe, increasing his attack speed by 130, proccing off multiple times over, and nullifying the evasion advantage. However, getting picked off right here, they have Avalanche Dagon, and throwing an Anti-Mage at you just to finish it off, and I can't imagine we just has much longer for this world either. Just a few more right clicks, and Impale is all they need, but Blinding Lights continue to go on through. Now here it comes. Impale. And they're not going to dive into Tier 4, so that, I guess, works out in their in the favor of iCCup as they keep their Sven alive. But losing the Clinks, the minute left in the grave, that's going to be an easy opportunity for IC to make something happen.
Yeah, I mean, but like they really do need their Clockwork here. The Clockwork's holding both the mech and the pipe, so with him around, you can fight very easily. But without, it's a bit difficult. They get a range racket bot for free, and this is the fun part of when you are playing a rack setup. You can just kind of let things settle for a bit and eventually do a lot of damage. One thing I hope to see, though, is for this anti-mage to go straight Abyssal after this. He has the attack speed to really get it going, and they need something to deal with that Clinks when he's BK beat, and Luna's going to have a BK.
Yeah, popping off the pipe for the uphill march, the Illuminate won't be able to do too much, same with the Shockwave. A little bit of Lucent Beams back and forth between the two here, but that Fortification is pretty much their last resort. They have to do something now, but the Skewer actually, I think it was going for a Skewer, messes it up a little bit. Some creeps get farmed up, and now the racks are available, and they're going to be locked down pretty quickly by Anti-Mage's Illusions here. This is their third racks to take down, and the range are probably going to be the fourth. So really, really nice, and that means that they've pretty much, I can't say they solidified their victory, but unless there's something big happening in probably the next 10 seconds, that's just a huge win that Magnus really, Sunlight needs to clean up on right at this moment, and I don't think he's going to, Skewer comes on through, Polarity on 2, no, the Cogs interrupted just
Cogs.
barely. Really, really nice from Lolik. Finds out Nick's Assassin, but, you know, Nick's Carapace going to be able to stun out everybody, delaying the inevitable 4-man impale.
Is he can blink? Is he going to be able to blink?
He has the blink. Will he? There's a Dissension ward. He gets right-clicked, dropped down. Should have if he had blinked over that, it would have been so powerful. But he relied on his Vendetta and a little bit of juking action to try to save him, and obviously didn't pan out. Now going on Sunlight, just burst it so hard with that Dagon 3. The Geometry Sight on the ground, double gem, 2 eyes for Tiny to just scout out anybody and bring down just about everyone. So Sarkif really has full control for the time being, but yeah, mostly the big thing is these racks that have fallen. It was an extended chase and a little bit back and forth goofy stuff, but with that, oh, actually Clink's doing a lot of damage. Jackal doing so much on the back end of things, doing quick right clicks, finishing off the Rubik, now getting stunned up though, the BKB expiring, and he's going to get locked down. No buyback available, and that's only 69 gold away, 70 gold away from being able to buy back, but unfortunately that's too long, and I think that might be a good game right here.
I gotta say, like, this basically is what it came down to. The Clinks, when the Clinks died, that was all of their levels, that was all of their farm. You know, the Radiant team couldn't play besides that, and yeah, they're calling the game right now. I think it was a very, you know, inspired defense when they got high ground. They lost all of their towers, they had this anti-mage that was so strong, the Tiny had a Dagon, for God's sake, and they were able to hold for a very long time. But in the end, you know, just one misplay in that kind of situation, it's going to cost you the game.
That'll do it, yeah. And Tiny jumping on in, doing some damage, but it doesn't matter at this point. They don't have anything. If the Luna had, like, 6,000 more net worth or something, she might be able to repel the creeps a little bit, but right now, at her state, the Moonglade is doing very little. The Eclipse popped off to no avail, and from there, the Mega Creeps will do the work they need to. Now actually trapping in the Magnus with the Clockwork, not sure how that's going to work out. I guess they could force staff him at any point with the Tiny, but currently just duking it out and using the Cogs. Now there's a reverse polarity on 2, going to do some damage into the fun, but I don't calling it at this point, because with those Mega Creeps down, with another kill, yeah, this gonna, I mean, good game was already called. So.
Oh, Dagon him, he's got his E. Oh, you know, Mana. This is so sad. Man, there's nothing like going on a decrep target and not being able to Dagon because of Mana. I feel this tiny pain. But they're just playing around for fun right now. The Radiant's already called GG. And I'm really excited to go and see, it's Ice?
Ice Climbers?
Ice Climbers, you're right. Ice Climbers in the finals. They played very solidly this game, and you know, I love to see that mid-tiny, so hopefully they bring it out again for the final.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not going for the exact same pocket strat there, but it definitely showed his effectiveness here, and mid-tiny, a very good potential to easily beat out the Magnus in that exchange there, and of course, once he broke out of the mid, out of the laning phase, started ganking, he was just a force to be reckoned with, and really gave Anti-Mage every little bit that he needed to farm. Didn't go for the Battle Fury build. I think that was a good choice based on his current GPM at the point in time where Battle Fury would have been most relevant, but in the end, yeah, Ice Climbers really doing work, and iCCup just couldn't handle it. So with this best of one semifinals, that means that iCCup is knocked out, and Ice Climbers versus, I'm trying to remember, was it Rocks? ROX?
Yeah, it was Rocks.
So those two teams are going to go up against each other, kind of two dark horse teams to an extent. I mean, there are some players in their lineups that are relatively well known, but the teams themselves weren't expected. I mean, you look at the rosters and you see teams like Absolute Legends and 3D Max and stuff like that, but obviously iCCup taking a fall here, and it's going to be Ice Climbers going up for the finals in this next best of 3 match to decide who is going to take part in that finals match to go and be part of the Premier League. So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited to cast that game, and it is in fact a best of 3, correct, Blaze?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, I'm so happy, because, you know, I feel like when you have this kind of bracket and you keep seeing these like best of 1 games, it gives you a lot of room to do pocket strats like that Tiny, but I would always like to see, iCCup to have another chance to go and make up for that loss because they've been playing very well through this tournament, and I kind of feel for them in not being able to advance.
Sure enough. Well, in the end, like you said, there can be only one. So that's going to be what we're looking at here. And this was a very fun game to cast, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is, again, the Premier League. I am Blaze. This is Rainmaker. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yeah, GG's, guys.